Okay, so with this transformation here now, you've got add 4 and it's outside the bracket, so it actually affects the y value, and add 4 means it goes up 4, so you can shift this graph up 4, so you end up having here, okay? So you're going to have your curve, something like that. Important thing is that you mark where it goes through there at 4, you mark that value there, and ultimately you've pushed it up 4, but you put that value there where it crosses the y-axis, as it says. Here then, excuse me, a minus, again it's you know, it's not in the bracket, it's outside, so it affects the y-axis. And if it's minus g of x, basically all the positive y values become negative and all the negative values become positive. It reflects in the y-axis, so ultimately you're going to reflect this, okay? So this x-axis acts as like a mirror, so you end up having something like this. And so I've reflected that there, and I need to reflect this down here. It might be better if I turn this around actually. Okay, so you can see then I've reflected that to be here, this to be here, and there's your minus g of x. This one then, now this you notice now is inside the bracket, so this means it affects the x-axis. And of course when you're in the bracket you always do the opposite. So here 4x is 4 times x. The opposite of that is divide by 4. Okay, so basically that's what you're doing. Okay, now in terms of how that looks like on your graph, well, think about it. You're affecting the x values, you're dividing them by 4. So suppose this here is the distance from here to here. Okay, from the y-axis along here, okay, that x value there. Suppose you're going across 4, well now you're going to divide it by 4, so you're only going to go across 1, okay? So that horizontal distance there, divided by 4, so you end up only going about there, so this is going to really squeeze this graph, okay? The same there, that distance up to here, for instance, okay, you do a quarter of that distance there, so the horizontal distance from the y-axis to the curve, the x distance there, you divide by 4, so you end up being about there. So this really will do that to the curve, okay? And then this one, f of x minus 2, okay, again is in the brackets, you do the opposite. Opposite minus 2 is adding 2, okay, so along the x-axis you're going to go positive 2 in that direction, okay? So where it crosses minus 2 here, if you go across 2, it'll cross there at 0. Where it crosses there 2, it's going to go 2 across, it crosses at 4. So, so it's important you mark that there. And then when you draw your curve, most important thing is then you have it going through the origin, going through 4, and also the y value remains unchanged, so there's still the minimum there. So that's important that you sort of consistent there. And also the minimum will be where 2 is, won't it? Okay. So there's your graph there, and you've marked the important values there on the x-axis.